Welcome to Invest, talk about investing, finance, and professional development. For today's items only, the investment talk today would be Ethereum ETH. First, want to say happy Thursday, everybody. For a great week so far. We are almost to the weekend. With respect to recording time of 9:24 a.m. on the Eastern Time, Ethereum trading $3,076, down about 1.43% so far. With respect to overall crypto market, is relatively red today, right? With respect to the spike yesterday that we incurred ever since the FOMC meeting, based on obviously the meeting that we've heard from Jerome Powell, the tapering timeline is still inconclusive, right? There's no definitive answer or the timeline with respect to obviously the asset purchasing plan that will be enduring going forward, right? The main caveat is still going to be triangulated towards the job numbers, how is the economy is going to be progressing going forward, right? So we still need to watch out on how that's going to be shaking out going forward. But Jerome did give us a foreshadow that the tapering plan, the timeline, should be confirmatory by the next FOMC meeting, which is going to be happening in November. So I would say like 2 months from now, technically. And he said something about what's the logical time frame for tapering. He said something about it's either going to be somewhere around obviously by November to December this year, so late Q4 or early Q1, so in the first couple months in 2022, and it's going to durate all the way until the mid-year of 2022. And he thinks that's the logical time frame for the revival of the economy as the COVID variants news and obviously the corporate balance sheet is further stabilized going forward to sustain the economy, to keep US up, the economy, on an upward trend going forward without, obviously incurring some financial detriment, is something that they have to, be very cautious of, right? So with that affectation, subsequently, drive up the US dollars to go up from there, will subsequently drive some volatility across the market. And with respect to today, it's just some more of a normalization, knowing the fact that the pump that we saw was mainly coming from public investors, not private or institutional investors, if you may, right? So we are normalizing right now in terms of the charts. Per our technical analysis, we know that we're still within that bearish signal, the bearish indicator that we've seen so far, right? So before I go into technical analysis, I'm going to go through the news first. So with respect to the first one coming from CoinDesk, talk about Cambrian says its new Bitcoin Ethereum trust will cut through volatility. So Cambrian, I think this is a financial institution that with their trust that they're offering to their corporate clients, he believes that with more, investments, that is going to be into the pool of the assets, with more stability of long-term holders, it should subsequently fix that imbalance of the ecosystem and should subsequently translate into more of a stabilized price level that we technically wouldn't see a 10% drop or a 20% drop that we historically saw from other altcoin or Ethereum a couple of years ago, right? So good news, seems like more corporate adoption from there. Another one from Fox News talked about 4 hours ago with respect to Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin, all high earlier on Thursday morning. So this is basically coming from just the rebound that we've seen, right? From what happened yesterday from the FOMC meeting and also with the Evergrande Group stock rebounded as well. I believe it bounced by 20% as the news got broke out, right? So more just a rebound coming from public investors, something good to know. And I think this is something that's expected, right? It doesn't just go down in one red line. We always have to normalize a little bit to just, kind of taste a little bit before we dip your whole entire body into the pool, right? Kind of tip your toes into it and then before you jump into the pool, if you may. The other one is with respect to Fortune's 4 hours ago, taper tranquility. So this is, more just, I don't know what they really mean by taper tranquility. It just basically means, I guess, Jerome Powell, he said a lot during the meeting, but he also said a lot of nothing as well. He's basically dragging out the timing. There is no conclusive answer as to what's the tapering timeline going forward. He said it's logical that it should durate starting in late Q4, but there's nothing confirmatory, right? We still have to watch the status quo, right? The job numbers, how the economy is going to be progressing, and that's how they're going to be triangulating the asset purchasing, right? So nothing really confirmatory yet, right? And the other one with respect to the Bazinga news 6 hours ago, Kim Kardashian touting Ethereum knockoff on Instagram had a 19% conversion rate, and those who bought in stare at mega losses. So, Kim Kardashian, a public figure, with her, I guess, stamp of approval or her influence towards specific coins will obviously drive some volatility into the market, right? So this is just basically, an unfortunate event that occurred. Good to know, but this is, that's the reason why we always invest into, asset investment opportunities that have unique, differentiated value proposition and not just chase the hype, if you may, right? And this is one of those classic stories for being on the wrong side of the spectrum, right? Chasing the hype, chasing the pump because someone tells you to do so, aka this Kim Kardashian person. So, just a lesson learned, I guess. Another one's coming from Bazinga now 9 hours ago. Dapper Labs expand NBA Top Shots experience to soccer world. So this is an Ethereum-based product that is cultivating and seems like expanding to NBA and also expanding to the MLB as well. So just another regurgitation news, talk about more NFT-related Ethereum-based adoptions on the commercialization front. And then that's pretty much it overall. There are some news that's talking about on Decrypt with respect to resistance levels that we at right now for Ethereum. If we break that, where will we be going? If we don't break that, where will we be going next in an upward perspective? So just more of a technical front, which we will go dive into a little bit more. And then the last one on Market Watch 11 hours ago, talk about Robinhood doubling down on cryptocurrencies with new wallets offering. So this is something we heard already. So let's go back into technical analysis. Let's go to Ethereum first. So it seems like we are reversing down right now with this green surge mainly coming from public investors again. We are still crossing downward, and MACD has no signal of crossing up at all so far. We're still leaning downward. So this is still a head and shoulder pattern, which means that there's more sell-off coming. We are not getting to the 13150, which is the next level, and we couldn't get that. We opened that below that level. So technically, we're going to go down a little bit more to the $3,000 level, which is, I think we got there early today to the 3,032. So $30 away is basically like the $3,000 level, right? And we are still at the 42.99 out of the scale of 70. So that means that we are not overbought, not oversold, but we are more leaning towards the, depletion level, which is good, but I think we can squeeze a little bit more out of the lemon and just wait a little bit longer, because if the market cycle is going to durate going forward, we know we're going to see more sell-off coming to go down to the next comfort level is the 2,750, 2,450, right? So it's still a bearish momentum based on what we see so far, and I don't know if there's any specific catalyst on a macro perspective that's coming up that we need to know about, that we need to be aware of. So I think the next one is really coming from the, just more media affectation or the next FOMC meeting, and obviously the CPI report that we'll be getting on mid-October. That'll be like the next catalyst. And also with respect to COVID variants news, how that's going to be progressing going forward. So those are some of the macro news that we do be aware of. So with respect to Bitcoin, just to touch it a little bit, right? We are at the resistance levels that we are currently just hovering at the moment, but we do see that there's a large gap that needs to be filled. So the next level is 40,000, so we have a $3,000 drop technically. But for me, I ideally just buy at the 37 or 34 because that's just more of a substantive level. And for me, I have already a large holding in Bitcoin. In terms of like the MACD and RSI level, it's quite comparable to Ethereum, which makes sense. They are like considered to be stable coins, so the characteristics of the technical make sense on how they are aligning with one another. So for Dogecoin, we are at the 39.5. We are forming some sort of curvature, but is the curvature completely confirmed? Not yet. I think we should see a little bit of a sell-off, knowing the fact that the weekend is coming technically tomorrow and Saturday. Tomorrow is basically a Saturday for the other side of the world on the Eastern Hemisphere. So we might see some sell-off. or some negative news, if you may. And the setup right now is still negative because of the head and shoulder pattern. Again, the 20 cent is still the good level dollar cost average at. And we are still at like an okay level in terms of like dollar cost averaging on an RSI scale. So maybe way off a little bit, despite the normalization that we're seeing today. Cardano, $2 would be the level to buy at, which I know that some people did, which is the reason why we drove this green candle. But the technical loss is 187, 145, and I think Cardano will probably stay off from it because I think we should technically get back to 145 because on the scale of RSI is still at the 43 out of 70, which is relatively higher. And also on top of the fact that MACD is still crossing downward, there's no bullish momentum at the moment. So something to be mindful of. Solana, we're surging up. Not really surging up. We're just normalizing right now. We are still at the relatively mid-level of the RSI scale. We're not forming any curvature at the moment, so we're still leaning downwards. So I think Solana, you want to stay off. But good job for you if you bought at obviously the 114, which is or 116 per the technical analysis we'll be talking about. Those are good levels to buy at. Our XRP is basically we're still at the mid level. There's no curvature up yet. We are normalizing down, so I think the sell-off back to 88 would be very possible. Polkadots, we have a huge gap that has formed here. So I think going back down, on top of the fact that RSI is in the mid level with the 50 out of 70, MACD is relatively, volatile. You can see we crossed so many times up and down. So that's not a really good sign. In terms of like the head and shoulder, it's not as prominent. This looks somewhat like maybe an upward wedge, if you may. So I think a sell-off might be coming or imminently, and it could be relatively bloody. So something to be mindful of, right? So with respect to the technicals, we are within the denial, panic, and capitulation stage. I think the anger stage will be coming, and then we're going to lead to depression, right? So there's nothing to be angry about or depressed about because we've been talking about this for quite some time now. So it's no surprise. And you can never be anticipating an anger or depression. You either feel it or you don't. You know what I'm trying to say? So that's why I'm here to give you that logic that's tell you what I'm doing. Hopefully what I'm saying makes logical sense to you guys. And with respect to frame of reference for Ethereum 3000, 2007, 2450. And if you hold in, buy now, go ahead, do it. Don't worry about the short term technical spectrum, but just know that you could hold it for a long term and you'll get to these levels eventually. You just have to be patient. Time is going to pay off from here. Your life, your time is the most precious commodity, not your money. So don't stress yourself out or make yourself super heightened for no reason because of short-term volatility. Invest in long-term value proposition, right? Time will always pay off if you believe in the right horse, if you're betting on the race, right? And I currently hold, quite a lot, right? So hopefully this is helpful, in terms of giving you that frame of reference and the right methodology to apply. Really appreciate you again for the kind notes, to my CNBC video that I posted yesterday. I've been getting a lot of feedbacks lately. Just in the last 24 hours, I got 1,250 emails so far, and it's still growing. So I'm really, really happy that is turning out with such great resonance. But yeah, the mission is still going to be further cultivated. It is just the beginning, and I really appreciate you guys for joining me along the ride. You guys are part of Things Capital with me, and we are on this journey together to solve the imbalance in the ecosystem, to support all the underdogs globally. And that's the mission for me that I'm going to be dedicating for the next 50 years of my life going forward. So that's it for now. I really appreciate you, and stay tuned for us to come up. Take care. Bye.